What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the ThwakJak Report. Today is a very special video. We're actually a couple days late on it, but I feel like a lot of people are still talking about it, so I think we're good.
It literally has fully eclipsed any Falcon and the Winter Soldier anything.
Yes.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier has not gotten off to as good of a start as WandaVision did, I think because of what we're talking about today.
Yes, and we are talking about the Snyder Cut, Justice League.
Yes.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
It is everything I wanted and a little bit more. Quick backstory on this movie. It has been a long 4 years since we were originally supposed to see this. 2017, we got we'll call it the Joss Cut or Justice League.
They call it Justice League, yeah.
The Justice League.
And what a train wreck that was.
Dude, I know I've told you a million times, and I've probably said it on our podcast. I've probably said it on one of these ThwakJak reports, but literally I was nauseous watching the original version of the Justice League, and I was that much more nauseous while watching the first 15 minutes of this movie because I realized how much they changed.
Yeah, and I remember when the Justice League came out in 2017, when I first saw it, I kind of convinced myself that I liked it, or that it was watchable, and then I think I saw it once and I've never watched it again. And I don't think anyone will go back to watch it again after seeing this.
If anybody does, it will purely be based on comparisons.
Yes.
It will be to see how egregious and gross some of the overlapping and the deleting scenes and the just overall changes. It literally feels like in the original version, the Justice League, they went back and filmed the same thing, same dialogue, just sped up.
Yeah, and the stuff that he chose to cut out it almost feels like it was intentional, like he wanted to sabotage this thing.
Oh, dude, we'll get into a couple of scenes where it's egregious.
Yeah.
But just for a little extra backstory, Warner Brothers was not happy with the way Batman vs. Superman was received, and they had a knee-jerk reaction and decided to pull Zack Snyder from the remainder of the Justice League post production.
Yeah, well, and actually, while he was still on the set, they brought in Joss Whedon to help with some rewriting and stuff like that. It was supposed to be minimal stuff.
Yes.
And once Zack Snyder's daughter situation happened, that's what really derailed it.
Which is another shining example of success from this movie. Mm-hmm. Just another quick thing we'll touch on with this. His daughter committed suicide towards the end of filming of this, and Warner Brothers kind of saw it as their excuse to kind of shuffle him out the door. Yeah. Which is, in my opinion, extremely disgusting.
They really screwed him over.
Yes. But it kind of played out. I don't want to say her death was a positive, but this movie used that to actually really build on the anti-suicide and suicide awareness thing. They raised over $500,000 just to kind of bring awareness to this and hopefully prevent other people from doing it in the future.
Yeah, and Jared Leto even came out, I think it was last week or right when this movie was released, he printed shirts that said, "We live in a society." It's that line from the last teaser. He printed those, and all the proceeds are going to anti-suicide awareness stuff.
Yes, which honestly, we need more of that. I've personally been affected by suicide in my life. And I know you have too. Yeah. It hits everybody in different ways, and everybody deals with stuff in different ways. And honestly, I feel like this has to be super vindicating for Zack Snyder and his wife, Debbie Snyder, who is a huge part also of making this movie. She's a producer.
Yeah, and he even did this for no money. He just really wanted to finish it and, put his vision out there.
Yeah, and he, you were telling me this, I didn't notice it, but in that Flash scene with Batman, they put the poster on the wall, kind of spreading suicide awareness as well. I mean, we can go on about stuff like this all day because it was truly egregious and disgusting the way that Warner Brothers did Zack Snyder through this process. But instead of being negative, I think it's time that we actually swing into a bit of the positive because I was wary going into this because I was like, I got my hopes way too high for the original version.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a tattoo of the frickin'
Logo.
Justice League symbol, which immediately after the movie came out, I was like, that was a mistake. But there's no other like real.
Now
Justice
it's kind of
League.
redeemed.
Yeah, it's so redeemed.
Yeah.
But there was no other Justice League symbol to go off of for my like Justice League arm, so I was like, I guess I'm living with it. But now I'm happy. I'm content.
Yeah, and before we get into anything from the movie, this is a spoiler review.
Yes.
We should have mentioned that a little earlier, I guess, but we'll put it at the beginning too. This is a spoiler review, so if you haven't watched it by chance,
There's no turning back now.
yeah, go back and watch it and then come back and watch this. But yeah, we're gonna get into all the details.
In 3,
Two.
2, 1.
Juan. So we're gonna start with all the character intros. Each character has an introduction in this movie, and they really took time to really display everybody in a
It felt
timely manner.
full. It
Yeah.
didn't feel rushed.
Yep.
And like, it made sense. We'll go with the first big character introduction. I think was it Aquaman?
It was Aquaman.
It was a slow burn into it, like him literally climbing mountains to go to this little fishing village. Batman.
Yeah.
And he goes into this bar, which we saw in the trailers multiple times. Like, there were full shots from the trailers of the original Justice League that you completely forgot about because they didn't actually show up.
Yep.
And it was just nice to see a lot of the things that he intended to be in the movie finally in there.
Yeah, and I'm glad the I heard you could talk to fish line is taken out of there.
Oh my god.
It's not like I'm glad.
Not only that, but he, like, that line when he's going into the water was completely taken out from the original Justice League, where he's like, "You're crazy, Bruce Wayne." Like, it wasn't as loud. It felt more subdued. And now they actually explained that the people around them don't talk English and are poor, so they probably don't have cell phones to film.
Yeah.
It made sense, because if you have this guy literally telling everybody that Bruce Wayne is Batman in front of this whole village.
He even calls him Batman. He said, "Don't count on it, Batman."
Well, no. Oh, yeah, he did. He
Yeah.
did. But that was honestly when it was more like the two of them. There was like a couple people in the distance. It felt quieter. It didn't feel blatant, like it was like outing him.
And just the way it looks too, when Jason Momoa's in the water, you can see the backdrop. In the Justice League, it was like blatantly green screen.
Oh yeah. Well,
that was a reshoot.
I will say the CG in this movie still is not everything I would have desired.
No, yeah, there's some parts where it's a little questionable, but
especially green screen stuff. Like,
yeah,
you
given
can
the circumstances, it's like
you can definitely tell that a lot of the backgrounds are fully CG.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I think it looks hand over feet a million times better.
Yeah, and I think the reason for that is like the desaturation that Zack Snyder did on pretty much everything here. It makes it look more realistic, I guess, in a way.
Yes.
Because in the Justice League, everything was like turned up to like 1,000, like color wise, and it looks worse that way, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, and like another example of why I think like a lot of it was like even same script but like reshot is like when he's going into the water, he's like, what does he say? He's like, "You're crazy, Bruce Wayne," and then he goes in the water. He's like, dresses like a bat. Like, he's really quiet compared to the original version.
Yeah, and the thing that happens after that, when Aquaman goes into the water, you see these women just like break out into this like song. It was kind of off-putting at first. It almost looked like a horror movie.
It did. It kind of I just watched Midsummer.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of like kind of that situation where it's like super ritualistic. She's literally like smelling his shirt.
Yeah, it was kind of odd. It looked like an A24 movie. The 4:3 aspect ratio, and you got these chicks singing like an Icelandic song or whatever the hell.
Absolutely. I don't know. It felt very artsy, but it was, I don't know. I think it was very well done.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I was watching videos on it, and a lot of people don't like that part, but I do. I think you do too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then I could be wrong about. I'm not worried about sequence honestly at this point, because this isn't like a 1-for-1 review of it. It's just our opinions and a couple breakdowns. But next we go to the Flash.
Yes, sir.
Is
the Flash the next one?
I believe so.
No.
No?
Wonder Woman, because the Flash is in part 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
So what was Wonder Woman's then?
Wonder Woman it's basically the same sequence that was in the Joss Whedon cut. It's I think they call it an anarchist or whatever. They go in there into that was it a school? Was it a bank?
I think it's a museum.
A museum. Yeah, these kids are like held up a hostage by this terrorist group, and Wonder Woman is standing on like Lady Liberty or whatever the hell. and she falls down there and basically
it's like the sword and scale thing.
Yeah,
like the
something of justice. I think it's called
Lady of Justice.
Lady of Justice. Yeah. So she goes in there and messes stuff up, and you can tell there's blood added to this to the fights.
It is so much more brutal. Like there was even action points in this that felt like they were missing in the original.
Yeah. One of the guys says the F word in this scene.
I think there are 3 F words total in the entire movie. And 2 of them made me very happy. Yes. As much as some people might detract from that statement.
Yeah. But this scene is longer. There's more action in it, and I don't know. She feels more like Wonder Woman in this scene than she did in the last one.
She was an extreme badass.
Yeah.
It also made me dislike 1984 more.
Did it? I didn't even think about that.
Well, like, because they decided to shovel him out the door.
Yeah.
They stopped caring about any character development from between Wonder Woman and Justice or Batman vs Superman. She's not the same character in 1984. She's too happy and too bubbly, and even ends with more hope. So unless something happens in the next movie,
she fits like the era that the movie takes place in, basically.
Yeah, 100%. And then we go to, in order, I would say maybe a little bit more Batman.
Yeah, there's some Batman stuff.
Him kind of flying in the plane, talking about going to find Barry Allen.
Yes.
They're kind of doing research, and you get to see the more methodical side of Bruce Wayne. I think that Bruce Wayne, especially Ben Affleck's version of Bruce Wayne, is fantastic. And it gets a much bigger spotlight in this version of the movie.
Yeah, and he reminds me a lot of the animated series Bruce Wayne.
Oh, he's very stoic. He's very large and in charge. He's much more character driven. I do feel like his Batman might be a little bit underdone at times. But as Bruce Wayne, he is the most believable version of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, and I would say, like, the Batman in this movie compared to BVS, there still is a difference in this one.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to that.
Absolutely. He's a little bit more hopeful. He's more willing to act off of faith because stuff he has seen. Where I feel like that's more of a character point based off of, like, his character development from BVS.
Yeah.
Because he didn't come out of or helping Superman die, essentially, and still be completely bleak.
Yeah, that changed him for sure.
And you can see that in the character development, which really felt like it was kind of sort of missing, but actually like turned all the way up for the Justice version.
Yeah.
So definitely happy with the way he was kind of driven forward and built. And then we go to Flash.
Yeah, this is actually my favorite part of the movie, part 3, the mother and son. This is where we really see Flash and Cyborg. But Flash first, you open up to him going to this like dog like daycare kind of thing, and he's like giving this chick his resume.
I was super questionable with especially the original version of the Flash. I loved Ezra Miller as an actor before this movie, but the Justice League really killed my opinion of him and his acting. It felt super whiny. This scene alone almost redeemed all of that. I still had small issues with him in this movie, but his character overall, so much better.
Yeah, and he's really set up to be like kind of the half of the heart of the movie and the more comedic relief of the movie.
Oh, yeah. You definitely get to see where the heart of this movie lied before everything was destroyed.
Yeah, because him and Cyborg are kind of like, they kind of represent the audience in a way. Like they're like the audience's way to be brought into this world and stuff. They're kind of brand new to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we also got to see Kiersey Clemons' Iris West.
Yes.
And, like, the immediate, like, magnetic attraction they had to each other. Like, he's going in for an interview, and instead of, like, paying attention, he's, like, more staring at her, and she's staring back at him, to the point where she crashes into this truck that, like, ran a red light or something.
Yeah, he ran a red light because he dropped, like, a hamburger, and he's, like, full face down trying to grab it.
That was ridiculous. Yeah. He hit that hot dog stand.
Yeah.
And I really thought it was going, like, just full love for a moment. Like, he literally drops everything as soon as the crash happens. He tears out of his shoes, which was beautifully done.
Yeah.
Like, they just explode off of his feet. And then he goes and, like, catches her. And like in the middle of catching her, he grabs a hot dog out of the air, and I was like, "Is he gonna fucking eat it?"
Yeah, that was kind of like weird at first because he's like looking at it, smiling all weird.
And then it does come into play, but it's not at all how I thought it was gonna come into play. And like he catches her and like brings her down real soft, and like you can see the ground tearing up because he's
like sliding.
Yeah.
To stop himself.
And like he puts her down all nice and soft, and everything goes back to normal speed, and they're just like staring at each other for a solid 2 seconds. He's like, "Oh shit, yeah, I gotta go back." Runs back in, and he's with the dogs, and he's feeding them the hot dog, and I was like, oh, okay, so like it wasn't just like a joke.
Yeah. And then after that, is it immediately after that where he goes to see his dad?
If not, I think we get Cyborg, and then we get to go.
Okay,
see his dad. We get Cyborg. Is he staring out the window? Yeah, he's staring out the window, and he's watching kids play football in the street.
And then you get a flashback to his time at Gotham City University as a quarterback. Yes. And I was looking forward to this scene because I remember seeing part of it in that original trailer.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, my first thought while watching it was like, dude, I would so watch a Zack Snyder, like, football movie.
Exactly. This is what it would be like.
And not because, like, I think he would do the story super well. I think he probably would. But, like, visually, that was stunning.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
It was cool. It really, like, the way it was lit and everything, it really looked like Watchmen.
Oh, yeah.
It reminded me of Watchmen.
That scene alone makes me look back on everything he's done and look to the future for, like, Army of the Dead and get so much more excited.
Yeah.
I like, there's not enough nice things to say from me about especially the Cyborg character.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, so in this scene, he scores like the game-winning touchdown, and his mom is there, and he's excited, and he looks down, and there's a chair with nobody in it, and he realizes his dad skipped out in the game.
Yeah, and you can just kind of see him get deflated.
Yeah.
This also made me angry, like just in hindsight and retrospect and everything. Looking back and see how much was taken out of his character, and also kind of made me understand his hatred for Joss Whedon a little bit more.
Yeah, because like this compared to that is like night and day, because in the last one he's really just kind of there.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot of character development given to him even after you meet him.
Yep.
Where this gives you his backstory and kind of gives you reasons to drive him forward. You get to see him shortly after he like snaps out of it, after you see his mom die in a car crash, and he's literally just arms and... Or, no, he's a torso.
Well, and before that, even before he scores the touchdown, you get to see, like, he's actually kind of like a genius because he hacked into the school's computers and changed his friend's grades.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so you can get that, both sides of him in that little sequence, and then you go to the crash.
Yeah. And then after the crash, and after you see him as just like a torso, he goes and talks to his dad, or his dad, like, walks in on him and tells him... gives him the tape. Mm-hmm. And he's basically like, dude, you can do anything. You can, like, you need to kind of hold yourself back and be morally righteous about it, and don't use this gift to do harm.
And I love the visuals of him basically inside the internet, and he's looking at the bank, he's looking at he can launch nuclear missiles with just a thought.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And then you see him literally just, like, grow that chick's
bank account.
She gives her $100,000.
Yeah,
because she's struggling. She's like
she got evicted from her apartment and everything.
Single mom, struggling, working like, I don't know if it's multiple jobs, but just constantly working and giving her money to homeless people at the same time.
Yeah,
not being able to pay for things.
And the actress in that scene, she actually tweeted a couple days ago and said, "Can anybody let me know if I'm in this cut?" Because she got cut from the Joss Whedon version.
Why wouldn't she just watch it?
I don't know. I didn't really think about that. But yeah, that's what she put out. So yeah, that's another reason Joss Whedon's kind of a douche.
Well, and I'll be honest, I listened to quite a few interviews with Zack Snyder since all this. I really almost kind of wish he would have broken into, like, you know, fuck them. But he is very gracious and kind and, like, calm, level-headed about this.
Yeah, because I think he wasn't really worried about sticking it to anybody. He was more worried about finish it for himself and his daughter.
Yeah. And then even on top of that, though, he talks about how the cast and crew were like family to him. So much to the point where, like, the crew that works on every movie with him pretty much goes from movie to movie with him. Like, he takes them along because they're like family.
Yeah, and a lot of fans talk a lot of crap about Zack Snyder, but the people he works with and the actors he works with, they like really respect him.
Yeah.
So I think fans are it's like there's a disconnect there.
Yeah. In the industry, I don't think there's a single person that can say a bad word about him other than the gross stuff that came out during filming the Justice version.
Yeah.
But after Cyborg, we kind of go to...
There's some shots of Atlanta, so we can just move to Aquaman.
Okay. I was going to say, because we can take all day to just do Cyborg's character, because there's a million things.
Yeah, so that's when you see there's a guy trapped on a boat that's kind of like an awkward position. There's a storm coming.
Another shot that we missed from the trailers.
Yeah. That's an awesome shot, too, of him just like standing there and shit.
Oh, well, even then, like after on the pier when he like takes the bottle.
Yeah.
And, I don't remember that being in the original version.
No.
But like, yeah, he saves the dude from the pier, and it's kind of epic because it's just like out of nowhere he flops him on the table in like the bar or whatever, and then he grabs the ball and he's like, it's on him.
Yeah, and then he's just walking along the dock and he rips his shirt off, and it's all in slow mo too, and that's another thing people complain about, but that's just a Zack Snyder thing.
I did hear a lot of complaints about the fact that it almost seemed like Aquaman put a shirt on just to take it off.
Yeah. And then also like in this scene, in the Barry Allen scene where he's saving Iris West, the song choices for him are like at first they're kind of like off-putting, but they're cool in a way.
He does have a very specific tone of music he likes to put in these movies. A lot kind of in the realm of either like super heavy, or you have like that beautiful like orchestral thing you have for Wonder Woman in every scene.
Yeah, and there's like just a classic rock that he likes to infuse all
like
over the place.
Hallelujah by I can't remember his name. I almost said Leonard Nimoy. I was like, that's not a musician.
The Watchmen sex music.
Yeah. And then so yeah, like overall the character development is just fantastic for each of these characters. You get to actually see what drives them. It's not nonsensical. You got rid of a lot of scenes that really upset me. Like that whole fear line from the movie where the parademons like smell fear. That's what attracts them.
Yeah.
To the point where like I was actually almost not looking forward to scenes like the Gotham Harbor thing under Stryker Island.
Yep.
I hated that scene.
Yeah, it was bad.
Especially when the Flash falls onto Wonder Woman's boobs. It's the same scene from Age of Ultron when Hulk goes over the bar and lands on Black Widow's chest. There was no reason for it.
Yeah.
And it really frustrated me.
And there's one scene I think we can talk about a little later that was cut out, that was in the Joss Whedon cut, that involves Aquaman and Wonder Woman. If you remember.
Oh, God. Where he's sitting on the freaking lasso.
Yeah. But let's not forget, too, in the Aquaman scene, after he saves that guy, he jumps back into the water and it shows him, gliding through, and then Willem Dafoe shows up. Long-haired Willem Dafoe.
I was so happy.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people, like, especially Lighthouse fans, freaking out. Just because it was kind of cool to see him in another, like, nautical-based thing.
And they're both in 4:3 aspect ratio.
Yeah. It's... I personally... I wish Willem Dafoe was in more things.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons one of my favorite movies is Boondock Saints is purely because of him. And the fact that he was cut out of the Joss Whedon version. Ryan Choi was cut out... character, I don't know the actor's name. But essentially the Atom was cut out of the original version. And he has a few good scenes, and like it would have been kind of cool to get a little bit more representation.
Yeah, because Zack Snyder was planning on... He was going to... I think he did pitch an Atom movie to Warner Brothers before all this happened, too.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me, because he seemed like he put a lot of eggs in that basket, because, like, he wasn't just thrown away.
Yeah.
Let me see, what other characters were missing? There was a few scenes with Amber Heard that were gone.
Yeah, the British Amber Heard. There's some Lois Lane stuff. That's another scene, too, when Lois Lane's getting the coffee. This is earlier on.
Oh.
And also there's another weird song choice there, and she goes to visit the site of the Superman statue.
Well, and you find out that, every day. You find out every day she does this. And then there is a little plot line that you see probably a good quarter of the way through the movie where she's in the house by her like apartment by herself.
Yeah.
And you see a pregnancy test on the table.
Yeah, it's in her little nightstand. She
Yeah.
opens a drawer and takes it and goes into the restroom and then it comes in there.
Yeah, and you get an answer at the end, but
Yeah.
like it's not blatantly told to you. It's not hand holding.
Yeah, you understand what's going on.
Yeah, we'll just say it now. When Batman at the end tells Clark, "Congratulations,"
Yeah.
like it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And you find out that most of this stuff takes part like a couple weeks, essentially after Batman vs Superman.
Yeah, and I like how this one even opens up with the death scene, Superman death scene. You know, and that's what he did in BVS too. That opened up with the ending of Man of Steel.
Oh yeah.
So it's very like connected.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like you see the like his cry when he dies, like just go out to everybody.
Yeah, all the way to Themyscira and shit.
Yeah, to each mother box, to where it
Yep.
even sends a signal to the people on Apocalypse that okay, it's time.
Yeah.
Also, another big piece of character development that we haven't talked about that is extremely necessary to touch on: Steppenwolf.
Yeah, we'll talk about Steppenwolf and Darkseid, but Steppenwolf is another thing that's like night and day.
Oh, dude. Visually, extremely superior.
It deepened his voice too. That's
Yes.
a little detail, and his backstory, his motivation. You understand it. It makes him more sympathetic.
Yes.
In that way, because all he really does is he just wants to get back home, but he still owes like Darkseid a debt, and he still owes him like 50,000 worlds, is what they said.
Yeah, it's insane because I didn't catch exactly what it was, but essentially he messed up in the past.
Yeah, he just said he betrayed him or something.
Yeah, which I was kind of. I'm sure we would have probably found out more about it down
Yeah.
the road if we would have gotten sequels, which is potentially hopefully a door that this will open.
Yeah, who knows?
But the character building was actually there for him, whereas before it was just, oh, he's a scary looking dude.
Bad guy comes down, wants to mess shit up.
Yeah, he was. It frustrated me, but there was a scene that he was actually taken out of that was originally shot and shown in the Joss Whedon version that was better this time because it didn't have him. That initial war scene where they kind of explain the initial attack on Earth 5,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you got Amazons, you got people from Atlantis coming together, just men.
You have the old gods.
Yeah, the old gods,
of,
Ares
like-
and Zeus.
Yeah, and you saw both of them fighting together, and you got a Green Lantern again.
Yep.
Which made me happy.
And the way he did that Green Lantern in is way different too, because in the original one, Steppenwolf just kind of stabs him,
And it flies off his
the
hand.
ring comes off, and then this one he cuts his hand off.
I was
and-
like, oh, and it was kind of cool because obviously it's Darkseid that comes down and fights everybody. But he cuts his hand off, and then he goes to like grab the ring off the hand, and I believe Ares stops him.
well, no, at that time the ring kind of flies away, and then he gets shot by some arrows, and then
He was
after
like
that-
going to grab it, he got shot, and
Yeah.
then it flew away.
Yep.
Which was kind of like a oh shit, like what would have happened if he could have grabbed that
Yeah.
ring? It was really, it was bloody. It was cool. My favorite part of it was I think it was Ares. I could be wrong about the character that did it, but
That killed him. That was
that almost killed him.
with the axe.
Yeah,
that was Ares.
Okay.
Yeah.
It felt, even though this scene was done before Avengers Infinity War came out, it almost felt like a call to that because he literally went for the head.
Yeah.
I was like, he didn't go back and change it.
Yeah.
But like he went for the head and it like made it to where they had to back off.
Yeah, and he really got used and abused because this is like a younger version of Darkseid. He's not like fully powered yet.
Yeah. He didn't even have like his Omega beams yet or nothing.
Yeah.
He was just very, he's still powerful, but he's not like the war god you think of when you read DC comics. To the point where since then they've kind of talked, he's destroyed like over 100,000 Earths or 100,000 planets.
And he even has his full armor and everything like that, and Omega beams.
Yeah. And the armor for Darkseid and for Steppenwolf are both fantastic. Obviously, we didn't see any of Darkseid in the original, but Steppenwolf's armor alone is beautiful. It almost looks like it's breathing.
It does. It's constantly moving. There's spikes that come up. It kind of like there's like different colors in it. Like there's like purple and green and stuff in it.
It's pretty cool. Like
Yeah.
I definitely enjoyed it. I will say the way that Steppenwolf goes out is extremely metal.
It really is. And before that, when he like communicates with Darkseid, he like you can see his armor kind of like just come off all the way to his chest, and it just like shows vulnerability.
Yeah, it seems submissive.
Yeah.
Trying to show him like I will do anything for
He's
you.
basically simping for Darkseid.
I was waiting for something to come. Yeah, he's definitely like, dude, I will do anything for you at this point. Like, I know I messed up. Just let me back in.
Mm-hmm. And what's the name of the henchman of Darkseid? Desaad, yeah. He's pretty cool too as a voice and stuff.
That was cool. And then getting to see Granny Goodness was also really cool.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't seem like crazy CG'd, it almost just seemed like a Karen walking next to Darkseid.
Yeah, no words or anything. She's just kind of standing there.
Yeah. But she was fairly menacing at the same time. Like it looked cool. It was a character no one thought they would ever see.
That whole like throne room or wherever he's at, it's just like his character in general is like more intimidating than Thanos, I think.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I know people will have had this argument since the creation of Thanos because Thanos is essentially, I don't want to use the word ripoff, but
he's their version of that character, basically.
Yes, and I will say that part where he sits on the throne, like I was listening to Zack Snyder, and he said he wanted it to kind of invoke the feeling of Conan the Barbarian sitting on the throne.
And it does.
He's just kind of like...
Yeah, he's kind of like kneeled down, kind of just like thinking.
Yeah, it kind of oozes like ego and power.
Yeah, and there's something like that setting, that throne room, there's just something dark about it, and you get like a different vibe off of it.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Like every visual cue, there's nothing that's wasted with Zack Snyder, especially visually. I honestly can't wait for the black and white version to come out so I can watch it.
Yeah,
I want to see. Like obviously, I know it doesn't change anything.
Yeah,
I just want to see visually because it's explained the reason that they're even coming out with a black and white version is because that's what he saw when he watched it and when he would show his friends before any of the CG was.
Yeah, and he calls the black and white version, he calls that the definitive version of it.
Yes, and they call it what they're calling it on HBO Max is the Justice is Gray.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely excited for that. So I think we've pretty much touched on most of the characters except for the smaller side characters like Lois Lane and the one thing that we left out with Lois Lane about Martian Manhunter.
Yes. That's like my one major gripe with it.
Yes, and I know there's a scene at the end that has multiple characters, and we will touch on that by itself at the end of this review, because we can review each character's motivations for that, but I think it's just better to review that on its own at the end. But you got a scene with Martian Manhunter kind of trying to push Lois Lane to go back into the world.
Yeah, because you see that she hasn't been back to work since Clark died, and she's kind of just basically just staying in her apartment.
And while I personally enjoyed it, I know you weren't crazy about Martian Manhunter. Yeah. I thought visually they could have maybe put a little bit more into it, but I do understand that this was while having a lot of money thrown at it, kind of a rush job.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I was happy that we even got a Martian Manhunter.
Mm-hmm. And the actor for it is perfect, too.
Oh, yeah. He's fantastic, because he's the guy who plays he's the army guy from Batman vs. Superman and Man of Steel.
Man of Steel, yep.
He has a different name than John Johns, and at the end of the movie, he really doesn't say what his name is.
He just says, have called me the Martian. I'm like, really?
Which I was kind of okay with, but I was just happy we got Martian Manhunter. Yeah. So, and there wasn't a whole bunch of real character anything with Martha Kent.
No, not really. Just that scene, and then when Superman comes back, you see her hugging Clark and stuff like that.
And you also see her losing the house.
Yeah.
So, and then what else do we have?
I think the next thing we can talk about is just the story overall, how it moves and everything like that.
Yes. There are some people who will say that a 4-hour movie is too much.
Yeah, and that's a lot of reviews I was watching the past few days have been saying that. They complain about that and a bunch of other stuff. But
I will say, as much as I am a diehard fan of this, you can arguably say that is because it was made for me and people like me.
Yeah.
It wasn't made for someone who's not interested in superhero films.
I would say maybe not people exactly like us, because there are like comic book fans that are just purists, like I've been telling you, and there's stuff they complain about. You got to be like open-minded to really enjoy it.
I do agree with that as well. But like ultimately, the overall consensus of this movie is a million times better than the original version. Yeah. You can ask almost anybody.
I think anybody would agree on that point alone that it is better than the Joss Whedon one.
To the point where Rotten Tomatoes score right now is sitting at 74?
74, 75, and the audience score is like a 97, I think.
Yeah, 97, 98. And go and I haven't done it, but go look at the Joss Whedon score. It is
let's do it right now.
I want to say it's in the realm of 28%.
28%?
I could be way wrong, but it's definitely night and day. The story does move much slower, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels
okay, so on the Joss Whedon, we got a 40% Rotten Tomatoes and a 71% audience score.
I want to meet everybody who gave that a favorable review.
I don't know why.
I want to pull a Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back at the end of the movie and just go kick all
Yes.
It was so bad. Like, I don't see how anybody could view that through a good lens.
Unless they did what I did and kind of like force themselves into liking it at first.
I walked out of the theater upset. So
I
was initially... I was somewhat okay with it, but I walked out and I was like, that was not what was promised at all.
Yeah, and that's different. Like, when I saw BVS, I saw early screening of it when it came out, and like everyone is like clapping and saying, "Play it again!" And then like a day later, everyone's shitting on it.
I love Batman vs Superman.
Yeah,
that's just me.
Yep.
So I was automatically going to like the Snyder version. Because it feels the continuity's there. If nothing else.
Yeah, that's. I think that's another thing that everyone can agree on. At least he had a vision and he went for it. Because not everyone who makes superhero movies, they all don't have visions at the time.
Because honestly, if you want to look at this, look at Avengers 1, Age of Ultron, and Justice League side by side. They all have the same formula.
Yeah, they basically do. The core of the stories are the same. It's just what they do with that core is different.
Yeah, it's serious. It's throwing a joke because it's getting too real.
Yep.
Back to serious. Oh, we need another joke. Like, it's just the formula that Marvel had in those first couple Marvel movies. I don't know if you can really even blame it on Marvel anymore, though. It feels like a Joss Whedon problem.
Yeah, I can see that.
And
there are jokes in this, but there's not enough to where it's like overwhelming.
And it's not immersion breaking.
Yeah, and they're placed like perfectly too.
Yes. Obviously, there will be people who are going to watch this review and they are going to hate on the fact that we are literally just fanboying for this.
And I don't care.
And I will say, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But I did have my problems with this movie too, and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But overall, like we said, story of the movie, much slower.
It takes its time.
It doesn't feel like it's dragging.
No, yeah, 4 hours. It really feels like a maybe 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah. And if you have the time and you're not watching your watch or your phone to make sure what time it is, it doesn't feel like it's going at a snail's pace.
I did pause it from time to time, just hoping like I wasn't like almost done. I'm like, cool, I got like 3 more hours, like 2 more hours.
I would do that too, just to be like, I really hope this isn't ending anytime soon, because I'm used to watching a 2 hour movie and it being done.
Yeah.
I could not imagine cutting this movie into 2 hours.
Yeah.
Even though I've seen a 2 hour cut of this movie.
Yeah, just I can't even get into the mind state of like the editors at that point. Like,
it was I don't know. Either way, the story is much better. It's much more like digestibly paced.
Yeah, there was exposition points, but they weren't like overbearing. Like motivations were good throughout. Yeah. It just kept the story moving pretty smooth.
Even the scenery shots aren't immersion breaking. Like, it feels like it's necessary.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people who can argue otherwise.
Yeah, there's some scenes that could have been shortened down just a little bit. Like even the Aquaman scene at the beginning, that could have been shortened down maybe a couple minutes.
I mean, I agree, but I'm definitely happier that we don't have to cut it down. I'm happier with what we got.
Yeah.
There are the problems that I have with like more actor choice than direction.
Okay.
Like, I know you are much more of a fan of Ezra Miller this time around, and I am as well.
Yeah, he's my favorite character in the thing.
I do feel like there are certain things he does that are still questionable. He's still a little bit whiny, and
especially when he gets hit by that laser at the end.
And I think that's one thing that bothers me is like, because it's not just that scene, it's also the one when they're under the tunnel, and he's just like, And I'm like, I understand being in pain, but I don't see the Flash as being that whiny.
Yeah, he really like sells it in a bigger way than he needs to, probably.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I get that he's hurt. And I will say, I did love the delivery on the scene towards the end with him. Even though some of the dialogue on it didn't really make sense to me, I still understood kind of why the character would say it. It just felt like he could have gone with something else.
And that scene just in general was like there was something emotional about it too.
Oh yeah, like and I definitely felt it because it feels like there's no more hope.
Yeah,
and
he's like has so much like pressure on him because it's like literally up to him in that moment to like get things back to where it was so he can finish.
Yeah, and I was really nervous that it wasn't going to happen. And like, it's a movie. I shouldn't really care, but I literally like held my breath. I was like, oh shit, like we're getting Nightmare now.
Yeah, and not just that, like the scene where they're trying to resurrect Superman and they take him back to the ship and they put him in the water and that they're waiting for the mother box to drop in. That scene, it had more weight to it too. It had more stakes, it felt like, than it did in the last movie.
Oh yeah, especially because like as soon as he's lower or they're getting ready, he's getting ready to say go. Mm-hmm. Cyborg gets that vision of like everything in tatters, and
it's Superman like a little glimpse of the nightmare scene, but you don't see everything. It's just like the landscape.
And he says no instead of going. He's like, go, okay.
Yeah, and then as they're waiting, as the countdown's going, Aquaman's like telling him to shut it down, and Batman's like, no, do it. It
definitely felt like the stakes were high, and they were actually like taking a risk.
Yeah,
where the other one was just like, okay.
Yeah.
I did like the fight with Superman more, even though it was more or less the same.
Yeah, well, the way he's introduced, what does he say in this one when he, not impressed, is what he says. Yeah, and then he blows the axe away.
Well, not even that one. I'm talking about the one where, like, the resurrection immediately after.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'm glad they kept that in, but it's nowhere near as cheesy as
But even then, they did change quite a bit of it.
They did, yeah.
Because Batman's not the one who brings in Lois Lane. She's on her daily stroll.
And there's no, something's definitely bleeding.
Yeah. I was really worried we were getting that scene again. That do you bleed again? I was like, God. It irritated me. And then also the, you won't let me live, you won't let me die. Like, I was happy that was gone as well. I really was worried for Batman for a moment too. Like, it felt like there was stakes.
Yeah, and with him, and even with the original characters, when he first comes out and they're all looking at him, that seemed more tense too. This time around, you felt like worried for all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and there's one big thing that did bother me in the Joss Whedon version that was actually answered with this. Towards the beginning of the movie, Alfred is working on gauntlets.
Yes.
And you never get this scene in the original version, but he explains that, like, I've essentially tampered with this to make it able to kind of absorb the blasts that were coming from the Kryptonian guns.
Yep.
And it made so much more sense why Batman's able to sit there and take those blasts on his frickin' arms. I was like, his armor's able to just deflect alien super weapons?
Yeah.
Like, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I was happy we got that explanation, and it made more sense why he had a different suit at the end.
Yep.
It was explained, and it didn't feel like it was, we're selling a new toy.
Yeah, and that's another thing a lot of people are complaining about is how he got the suit. Like, in the comics, he didn't get to choose that suit, but in the movie, he did. He literally walked down, you can hear the voice of Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear the voice of
Kevin Costner.
And
I did like that touch, though. Yeah. I'll be honest. And you know what? I understand comic book purists. There are times where I get irritated because things are changed. I'm a huge fan of Green Arrow, and I was upset with the TV show a lot of the times because they literally just stole Batman storylines. But we need to be able to allow other people to kind of take things and switch it a little bit, because if you want the original story, Go read the book.
And I
It's just
guarantee,
as good.
like, anybody, like, who's complaining, who, if they were given the chance to make a superhero movie, I guarantee they would change some stuff.
Oh, yeah.
If they got control.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
So.
But ultimately, I felt like this was very well done, and it was done in the director's original vision, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah. And now we got that hashtag, restore the Snyderverse.
Please, 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 please.
Yeah.
There is a tweet that came out, and I texted you this. Ed Boon, the guy who makes Mortal Kombat and the Injustice video games, literally sent a tweet out, especially because of that ending scene, the nightmare scene. He said, here's an idea for a sequel name, Zack Snyder's Injustice. I was like, that feels like a double-edged sword, honestly. Because it feels like, A, he, like, fought back against, like, an injustice that was kind of done to him. And then it's also kind of a nod towards the video game.
Yeah, because there's some stuff that are like, similar to that storyline.
Oh, yeah. Especially with the evil Superman.
Yeah.
It would work perfectly.
Yep.
That's what I would go for. Personally, like, that's my dream scenario is another 2 movies. Or honestly, I know I talked to you about this earlier as well. It would work as a TV show.
Yeah.
And I'm perfectly fine with this being its own universe now. Now that I've seen this, I don't have to argue with you anymore about whether or not Robert Pattinson needs to be in a Justice League movie. Would I still enjoy it? Sure. But this is what I want now.
Yeah. With these characters and these actors.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I really wish they would put one Vision in charge. Like, I'm tired of jumping around.
Yeah, and just stop being like so reactionary to everything like DC does. That's why this happened in the first place.
Yes. What else do we got? Because essentially the story is cut down to... It's still the same story, but you have more character development. You have... Like, the points are actually hit and make sense now.
Yeah, and certain characters are put more to the forefront. Like, Cyborg is really, like, the heart of the movie.
Yes. Well, like...
And he's, like, the center of it, basically.
Yeah. And when his dad dies... Like, I felt like it was super unnecessary for a moment. I was like, why in the hell would this dude blast the frickin' thing if he knows it can't be destroyed?
Yeah.
And then it's immediately thereafter explained. And I was like, okay, like, I'm not mad at the dude sacrificing himself now. Like, even though I wish he was still alive, like, cool. It makes sense. Like, he knew that no matter what, Steppenwolf was going to steal the cube. And so he superheated it to where they could find it somewhere.
Yep.
That's all I need. Just, I don't need to have my hand held. Just don't do shit that doesn't make sense.
Yep.
This felt logical. It felt concise. It felt to the point. It was much better crafted than what we originally saw. And ultimately the story is them trying to stop Steppenwolf and ultimately Darkseid from destroying the planet and finding the anti-life equation.
Yep. And that was supposed to be like what was coming next, finding the anti-life equation.
There was no mention of the anti-life equation in the original.
Nope.
There was no visual or really kind of big mention of Darkseid. There was nods, but overall, I think this was just done hands over feet better.
And even though Steppenwolf is like the main villain of this movie, Darkseid has like a hold over the whole thing. You can feel it.
Yeah, it was kind of, if you want to compare it, it was Ronan the Accuser to Thanos. Kind of.
Yeah, I can see that.
Except that Ronan the Accuser betrayed Thanos.
Yeah.
But it's more of like a subservient cuck version of of Ronan the Accuser.
Yeah.
But even then, I enjoyed Steppenwolf much more than that character. So, Steppenwolf, very well acted, very well CG'd into this. He didn't have the stupid human face.
Nope.
And his death was a lot more brutal than I expected. Even Superman's fight with him, when he, like, lasers his horn off.
Yeah, he's, like, completely beating the shit out of this guy.
I was like, he's gonna kill him.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Yeah.
And then the way he dies with the portal being open, you see Darkseid, you see Desaad, and you see Granny Goodness.
They're just kind of staring.
Yes, and they launch Steppenwolf with the pitchfork towards Darkseid and the portal, and Wonder Woman cuts his head off. And I thought, oh, like, they're going to be like, oh, like, that sucks. Darkseid doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, he just steps on his head and crushes it.
He breaks the other horn off, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it really shows you how he felt about him.
Yeah. It's insane. Like, you felt the character choices and like the reason why these people are doing stuff. Like, you felt the hatred in each person.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I guess the point I'm trying to get across is I just feel like it's better done.
Yeah, it is.
What else do we got?
That was pretty much it. We can just go over scores, basically.
Oh, first let's touch on first the Flash scene when Cyborg is kind of down to the last seconds right before the mother boxes merge.
Yeah.
Really did feel like the whole movie was kind of hanging
On that.
yeah, like
when Barry's like running around and starting to lose his stamina.
He gets shot, and I really didn't think that was going to happen, first off. And I thought that stuff was just going to start falling up. Yeah, I thought that we were about to get the nightmare world.
I did. I was waiting for the nightmare scene to be in the actual movie, too, and it never happened.
And I was kind of thrown off. And it's crazy, because when everything's done, you still have 30 minutes left.
Yeah.
I even paused it. I was like, how much time do we have?
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, because the end of the movie itself is when they're all standing above that thing and just looking out.
Super comic book splash page.
Yeah.
Like, you got a lot of those.
Yeah.
Especially during that last fight scene, because like you see them all coming into the area.
Yeah, when Batman's in the Batmobile and it just goes slow motion.
Slow motion. It's like a perfect splash page.
That was kind of like their version of the Avengers like assemble scene in the first Avengers when there are circles around them.
But it's so much better done in my opinion.
That's what I think.
But so Cyborg is getting ready to like essentially pull the mother boxes apart.
Yeah.
And
because he has to get inside of them to do that and risk himself basically.
Yeah. But he needs an extra like jolt of energy, the same way they did with the mother box. And Flash gets shot and he's trying to heal and he can't do it fast enough. And all of a sudden the mother boxes merge together and everything just starts
They explode basically, yeah.
He says it's too late.
Yep.
And
Batman says, "Oh no!" And I'm like, "Oh shit! This is the nightmare scene."
It blew my mind. I was like, I was like, A, how would they survive that?
Yeah.
And B, like I just felt like almost hopeless. And then like I was like, dude, like they actually failed.
Yeah.
And then you see like the rest of him heal and him like kind of talk himself up. Like he's like, I gotta break my rule. Like,
yeah, and he kind of like puts his hand out and everything's like going past him, but he's starting to go backwards.
Oh yeah. Also, side note, I hate the way he runs.
I don't mind it. It does look a little goofy sometimes when he's like flinging his arms all weird, but I don't mind it.
Yeah. But so ultimately I was happy with that. It actually made me feel something and it felt like there were stakes.
Yeah.
Now we talk about the scene.
Yeah, this is really the epilogue of the movie, and it shows part of the end credit scene from the last one, and it brings it into this. So it starts out with, you see Arkham, and you see these prisoners getting released from their cells, and the Lex Luthor's cell, there's still somebody who looks like him. He's still standing there, and the guard goes over there, turns him around, and it's just some random guy.
Yeah.
And Lex Luthor escaped, basically.
I feel like that part of the scene, unchanged.
Yeah, that one was unchanged.
And then you go to the yacht. And while the yacht is mostly the same, there's part of the scene that's changed.
What part?
The dialogue. Because in the original Justice League, he says, I think we need a league of our own.
Yeah.
And there's no mention to Deathstroke of, I know Batman's name.
Yeah, this scene was changed, or this is probably how it originally was, to really set up the Batman solo movie with Deathstroke in it.
Yes, and sad as it is that we're never going... You know what? I'm not going to say never anymore, because I really feel like there's a chance.
Happen. This happened 3 years after the fact, so...
I do feel like Ben Affleck may get another chance to do an actual Batman movie.
And maybe he's the other Batman that they're talking about, have to run concurrently with Robert Pattinson.
I'd be happy.
Yeah.
I would be extremely happy.
Yeah, and he's, like I said, he's in a better place in his life anyway, personally. He's healthy, he's not drinking. He looks healthy at the end of this movie.
Like, you can tell, like, it's completely different to the way of the reshoots in Justice League.
Yeah, he probably might have to, like, get a little more ripped again, but overall, he's in a better place, so I think he'd be up for it.
He's past his, like, alcoholism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It seems. He's at a better place in life.
Yeah.
But then we go to the nightmare
scene.
Finally.
Yeah.
And we start just seeing Batman at the car, kind of like looking around.
Well, there's like these different. They're not parademons. They look different. They look like giant bugs, basically.
Well, parademons are essentially, they come and they transform people on each planet into parademons. So the parademons can look different.
Okay.
They can kind of take the form of whatever it is on the planet that they're taking over. So it could be alien versions of parademons.
Okay.
Stuff
so
like that.
There's a parademon you see on top of a car, and then once it flies away, Batman comes up and he's looking around.
Yeah. And they're all talking about this plan they're going to get ready to execute. And by all, I mean Batman, Mara,
Cyborg,
the Flash,
and
someone I didn't expect, and I don't know why, Deathstroke.
Because you saw pictures of him.
Yeah, but I was like, I really did not feel like they could do all that. Like, it just felt like something a studio wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Because it's something a studio wouldn't do.
Yeah, and the main guy that everyone was looking forward to, the Joker, Jared Leto's Joker.
And his introduction blew my mind more than anything, because I almost forgot about him. Like, legit, like, I was so excited about the fact that Deathstroke and Mara and Flash and Cyborg are all working together with Batman to fight against Superman. And then all of a sudden, it like pans over to him like taunting Batman.
And I didn't forget about him at all. I was looking forward to that the whole time. I was just waiting for him to pop up in the movie.
I just feel like this movie did such a good job immersing me in it that like I literally like my mind went blank. And as soon as he starts talking, there's one line that he had that I felt was questionable.
Yeah, I know what line you're talking about.
Do you?
Yeah, the reach around. Yeah.
He's like, but then who will give you the reach around? And I was like, he really just fucking said that.
Yeah, they're basically taunting each other. Joker's taunting him about Robin. You send the boy wonder to do a man's job.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
He's like, tread. Did he say tread carefully or choose what you say carefully next time? And he's like,
yeah, make sure the next thing you. Something like that, yeah.
And essentially what he says.
Be careful
later,
what you say next.
Yeah, and then he keeps saying, he's like, you're not being very careful.
Yeah.
And, like, you get just character things that, like, tease what's in the future. Like, Mara talks about wanting to kill Superman for what he did to Arthur, which is Aquaman.
Yep.
And then you get a line from Batman confirming that Harley Quinn is dead.
Yeah, and taunting Joker back.
Yes, where he's like, I made a promise to Harley that when I kill you, and I will fucking kill you.
Yeah.
And I stopped paying attention to anything else he said because I was like, Batman said fuck. Yeah. It felt, I know people will argue that it wasn't necessary, but I enjoyed it.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. I'm like, dude, just watch it.
Yeah. I could not be happier.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be happier if we get more, but right now I'm content. I'm not wanting anything other than sequels.
Yeah, and you see where because in BVS in the Nightmare scene, you look at Batman's gun and he has a Joker card taped to the stock. Yeah. And that's how he got it. He made a truce with Joker as they're going through this, trying to fix everything.
Yes. Still not the biggest fan of Jared Leto's portrayal, but hands over feet, still better than the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, he still was cartoony, but it wasn't like too over the top like it was in Suicide Squad.
I just kind of wish he would get rid of that like growly, like pimp kind of thing that he does, where he just feels very like it's like cartoonish, but it's growly where he's like, oh, like, does that make sense?
Yeah, he didn't do it too much there, and his laugh is kind of like a little weird. Yeah, it's kind of like a squeal. I
just wish that it wasn't attached to the Suicide Squad, so he didn't feel like he had to continue with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and to me, I don't think he did. Like like I said, it feels different. Like the way he talks and stuff, I feel it's different.
It almost seemed like his teeth were knocked out.
They were like black.
Yeah,
they were like black teeth. There wasn't no fucking silver teeth or anything like that either.
And then after this, Bruce Wayne wakes up and he walks out and he has this conversation with Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, and I didn't like it at all.
I was okay with it, but yeah, this is where like he definitely looked healthier.
Yeah,
but like you said, the Batman cowl looked emptier.
There was a lot of space in the mouth hole there.
But ultimately, I think now we just break it down to scores.
Yep.
I'm sitting with this at an 8.5, and a lot of people will be like, "You literally sat here and like filleted this movie." for what I feel like we're at like 40 minutes, and you're only giving it an 8.5 because it's not the perfect movie. It's just perfect for what situation it was in.
Yeah.
I feel like it was very well done, and I personally enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. What would you sit at score-wise?
I'd give it I'm not like set on one number. I'd give it like an 8 or 9. The main nitpick I have is the Martian Manhunter, and just small nitpicks like certain scenes could have been cut down a little bit to save on time. But yeah, the characters are more fleshed out. Cyborg and Flash have bigger roles, and probably the two most important roles, I'd say, out of the whole thing. And yeah,
I 100% agree, and I don't think I could ask for anything more right now. So
yeah,
we'll just kind of stick with that.
I don't think we really have room to complain because we actually got it. So.
Yeah, we complained for 4 years,
yeah.
And the fact that a studio actually went. I can't say a studio went out of its way, but essentially, people use the hashtag Snyder Cut for long enough and loudly enough that we actually ended up getting this to where it's not 70 years later. Mm-hmm. It's now. We're not getting a recut of Godfather 3 that everyone is mad that they didn't get 40 years ago.
Yeah, and you can really see like how much power the fans actually have.
Yeah. This is something that Zack Snyder and everybody who viewed this kind of owes to the fans.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that movement, this would have never happened. So,
yeah.
Definitely can't complain. Definitely happy with what we got. And I think that's all we can really say.
Yes, sir.
So if you wouldn't mind, please leave a like and subscribe. And follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And listen to our Super Thwack podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And we will see you guys next time. I'm Anthony Stevens.
Damian Leba.
Peace.
Peace.